but you're kind of talking about like sense making on the internet, or doing sense shadow work like online, and kind of the
Yeah.
problems of doing shadow work online.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and so I thought it'd be interesting to cover that, and you could just talk about like some of the limitations you see of what can we do online, and what can't we do online, and then maybe we can talk about this idea of what you call shadow study hall, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah. So again, these are just ideas, and I've talked to other people about that talk I gave, and I've had people sort of express they think I'm being too conservative or too
Mm,
cautious about these
yeah.
ideas. And like, yeah, maybe I'm being too cautious, but I think caution is important. As we just discussed, it's like, you got to be careful with this stuff. But so we find ourselves here on the internet. You and I are interacting on the internet. We don't know each other. We've never met before. Probably won't ever meet in real life, but here we are, right? This is what's going on, especially after 2020. This is what's going on more and more. People are meeting on the internet. They're having meaningful discussions. They're forming meaningful connections somewhat. And the question comes up of, how much healing can be done over the internet with these people, or how much real community can be built where you begin to develop meaningful relationships, trusting relationships with people that you will never meet in real life, right? That's the question that's coming up. And of course, this has been true always on the internet, is like weird internet friends. Like, what is it? What does it mean? And, you know, I'll start off with saying that there's a huge amount of potential here. Like, it's very exciting. Like, what could happen as a result of our ability to connect to people who live across the globe? Like, I have friends in Australia now. It's around the world, but they're cool, and we connect personality wise, I think, more so than most people I see in real life. And it's like, that's powerful. You can meet people who are like you, and you won't feel so alone, and you can explore the things you want to explore. And on top of that, places like Rebel Wisdom, and I'd say even more so the Stoa, because I'm more of a Stoa guy than a Rebel Wisdom guy. But not that I have anything against Rebel Wisdom, I think that Peter is doing something I think is kind of more interesting for me, at least. But there's the opportunity for completely digital wisdom communities or academies that are popping up. They're kind of like DIY educational, philosophical spaces where people can come from around the world to learn, and they can learn for free, and they can help each other understand the world better. They can help each other become more wise. We can develop practices together. And that's really powerful, right? The idea that like having a hub that's digital that everyone around the world can find, they can see the beacon of like, John Vervaeke is giving a talk at this place called the Stoa, and like all these people around the world will come and find it. And the ability for a collective to come together and generate these interesting ideas, innovations in shadow work even, but like philosophical ideas, making sense of the world. The world's very confusing right now. Our ability to sense make together is really going to enhance how much we can understand what's going on, and have a lot of different perspectives that we can trust, hopefully, enlightening us about like what's going on in the world. How do we prepare for what's happening, et cetera? How do we learn what to do? So there's a lot of potential there, right? Now, the cautious part, I would say, is that these people are not embodied, right? We're on the internet, but we're just information traveling to other places. I'm seeing your face, but you're just information. I'm just information. So what are we really? It's like we're just sort of egos on the internet talking. We're not embodied. And because of that, weird things happen. Like, I can conceal who I am entirely. You don't really know who I am. This could all be a facade. I could just be manipulating you. I could just be putting on a happy face and being like, I'm totally functional and smart. And then when I get off the internet, my life is a wreck. You'll never know. And so that's what's tough. You find that if you, like, for instance, if you live with someone, the shadow is going to come out. You're going to see who they really are. You're going to understand all
Yeah.
their bullshit. You're going to see all the mess that they make in their lives. They can pretend to be fully functional, but you're going to see that, in fact, they're not fully functional, because no one is. And that happens because our lives are actually present together. And on the internet, that's not the case. So it makes it very difficult to do real work, because people don't voluntarily reveal who they really are on the internet. And that's tough. And I mean, beyond that, we all have like screen names. Some people are just using avatars.
Yeah.
You've gone so far away from who you really are that how can you get to know someone who's just an avatar? You can't really,
Yeah.
you know? So
In
there's
some
a problem
ways
there.
it's Yeah, in some ways it's kind of like there's this trend that's come up where now IRL has become a qualifier. You say this
Right.
IRL, and it's like now real life is becoming, talking about shadows. It's becoming, if the
Yeah.
shadow of the internet is real life, which
Right.
that's a huge fucking shadow if you're going to start putting, real
Yeah.
life out of your awareness. Um, but yeah, this is something that really resonates with me, is just this idea that a key part of the puzzle is having, and it's not to downplay the internet. Like I still like, I've had more of hope in what the internet can actually become lately than I have since like, early days of the internet.
Yeah.
But you have to have these nodes where people are like trying this stuff out, in the same spaces. I really like this idea of embodied cognition, and I have a meditation teacher that studies this stuff. And one point she makes about it is embodiment isn't just about it is the body, but it's also everything we experience and how much that's
Yeah.
part of our cognition.
Yeah.
We're missing that with the internet. The idea
Mhm.
of being in the same space with other people. There's a type of intelligence when you share a space. Um, I've had this experience of kind of learning circling over the last few months. For the first time, I've done a few circling sessions. And
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And it's all with people online. I'm like, this stuff is
Mhm.
so cool, And everyone's
Yeah.
always like, I wish we were in the same room together. I wish we could all be sitting around in a
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah.
And it seems like that just needs to be part of like the feedback loop, like real life nodes uploading to the internet, and then like the best practices, and then you like disseminate that back out to the nodes, just like this positive feedback loop of internet to real life.
Exactly, exactly. So that's the important point here, I think, is the idea of. So you mentioned shadow study hall, and the
Yeah.
point is, excuse me, like study hall. Let's say like a college study hall. What is it? It's like it's a bunch of people who are going to study together, but they're not necessarily committed to working on all the same projects or all committed to one project at the same time. It's not even as if they're like a community. They're just people who've come together to learn. And then after it's over, they leave and go back to their respective lives. And so that is a good way to think about what the internet can do, and a good way to think about the Stoa, for instance, or any sort of wisdom community on the internet, is like there's an amazing opportunity for people to come around from all over and learn together and teach each other things. But ultimately, our lives need to be maintained and understood as existing IRL in real life. I mean, like, it seems like a no-brainer, like obviously, right? But like, there's never going to be a real community in the sense that I would define a community on the internet. Like, it's
Yeah.
never going to happen. You have to have an embodied in-person community. That needs to be your priority. But in the meantime, you can go to the Stoa or someplace else and you can learn about circling, for instance. You can learn this collective meditation practice, and you can actually learn it even though you're not present with other people. There's still all this good information that you can take in, and then you can take it back to your in-person community and teach them things. And that needs to be, they both need to be happening. So
Yeah.
people who exist entirely on the internet, they have no social life outside of it. It's incredibly unhealthy. It's never going to turn into what you want it to be. It's never going to become something where you have real friends, I would say. And anyone listening who is really into the internet, like I'm not judging. I don't want you to like feel like I'm like saying you have no life, but I think it's true. It's like what's healthy is your in-person community, your local community. Get involved in that, meet real people, have real relationships, and try to become better people together. But the internet is an amazing tool to learn things, and you can go and meet other people on the internet who are also wanting to learn things, and you can collectively just teach each other so much. And that's what's so useful and so powerful. And you can form a network that even like you have these in-person nodes, like you said, these in-person
Yeah.
communities, but they're
Yeah.
connected to all these other in-person communities. And you can do things like, hey, we're all going to Burning Man, you know, and you can actually all get together and be embodied because of this online network. And then after it's over, you go back to your local communities. And that's what I see as being the kind of healthy possibility of this scene, this sense making scene, is the ability to do that.
Yeah. And that seems like really the next step. That's kind of cool to see, like things like the Monastic Academy, what they're doing, where they're definitely taking all this stuff from that definitely has come from being connected to the internet, testing it out in real life. And then I'm taking a course with them right now. So then they're like disseminating it out. And it's just kind of like, what type of feedback loop do we want? Do we want a feedback loop where like the internet's making our life shittier and then we're like bringing that shit back to the internet, which is kind of
Right.
like how it is right now, you know?
It is. It is.